Bonjour and welcome to a new video about comic books. It's been a while, I know, and I thought it was high time I would tell you what I've been reading and what maybe you would like to read, or maybe something you've got a completely different opinion to mine. So without any further ado, let's start, because we do have quite a pile of comic books this time. First of all, there is Earth One Green Lantern. Earth One is a series of original graphic novel published by DC Comics, in which they completely reimagine the characters. So this is Green Lantern, but not as you know it. This is more like one of those Larry Niven style science fiction stories, and it's actually very, very good. So I would definitely tell you to read this if you want. And then something different from Dynamite. And you remember I had told you about Swords of the Swashbucklers, which was an old comic book series by Bill Mantlo, which they had revived as an omnibus-style graphic novel to try and help him pay for his medical bill. And now they're continuing that by releasing a new series, so completely original stories with the characters, and they actually find a completely new way of telling the story. So, because of course the original Swashbucklers comic book had a conclusion, so they actually found a good way to continue the story. So it's written by Guggenheim, and it's actually pretty decent. So I encourage you to try this, and it will also help Bill Mantlo getting some money for his medical bill. So it's all good. Then going back to DC, you remember that DC has been launching the new Age of Heroes, and so far it hasn't been very, very, very good, except maybe for the Terrifics, which is quite enjoyable to read. So here is the one that people were waiting the most, and it's Immortal Men. The reason why people were wanting to have it was because it was drawn by Jim Lee. So as usual, they do have this very annoying gatefold cover, which is impossible to actually see. And the big surprise is that it feels like there's only 5 pages drawn by Jim Lee, and the rest is drawn by an understudy or something. It's not very good. It could have been nice, but it's not good. The characters fall flat. There's nothing happening in the first issue. It's very, very, very bland, so extremely disappointing. And then Marvel, because Marvel is bringing back some characters. They are bringing back the Exiles, or the Exiles, if I was saying that with my worst French accent. And the Exiles, actually, this is fun. This is really, really fun. So you've got, of course, Blink who is back, and you've got the one Valkyrie, and you've got a chibi version of Wolverine, Iron Lad with actually Kang, and you've got, this is an old Miss Marvel, and those people are just trying to prevent the destruction of the multiverse. Nothing more important than that. It's interesting because you do also see the Unseen. Yes, seeing the Unseen, I know, who used to be Nick Fury, and it's fun. It's really, really good old-style comic book. I mean, it's a nice romp. It's really quite well done, and it's written by Saladin Ahmed, who had done Black Bolt before. A very, very good writer. So I kind of encourage you to try it. And then we've got a double dip of Superman. Superman is 80 years. So for the 80 years of Action Comics, which was the first appearance of Superman in 1938, not 1988, they actually released 2 different books. The first one is like a hardcover with the best, or what they deemed the best stories from 80 years of Action Comics. So you've got, of course, the original story. You've got and basically it goes on, and every 10 years is represented by a story, and you've got little essays written by people. It's actually pretty good. It's quite fun. They did a good selection. There was something that I would have loved to see, but they didn't put in it. But still, if you want to see the whole history of Action Comics and Superman for 80 years, this is definitely the book for you. If you don't have as much budget, or if you just want to celebrate, you've got a version of Action Comics. This is Action Comics issue 1000. Yes, you heard me right. You see, there's the little 1000 here. And it's a special commemorative issue with all kind of artists and writers doing their own take on Superman. Little stories. It's good fun. You've got, classic people like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. You've got Dan Jurgens, of course. You've got quite a few people, and it's really, really nice. The interesting bit is that you do have the first little story written by... it's drawn by Jim Lee, but it's written by Brian Michael Bendis, who has now jumped ship and is now with DC. And his first story is okay. It's nothing really special. So Action Comics 1000. This is one of the variant cover, because they did plenty of variant covers as usual. And I thought it would be nice to have something looking a bit retro. So speaking of characters coming back, the Avengers are getting relaunched again. So they're back, very new creative team with Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness, and basically, as you can see on the cover, it's the big guns, and it's widescreen action. It basically has you've got the Dark Celestials, and they are basically getting the team all together. An interesting thing is you've got the Avengers of the prehistoric time, which I think is kind of fun, appearing that very, very old school in a way, very classic, but I think it's really worth checking this, and it looks like it's going to be a good run if the quality continues in the next issues. Then we're jumping back to DC for a change. DC has released this really small price DC Nation Zero, which is like a preview of stories that they're doing. So you've got 3 stories in that. You've got a story about Batman, which is actually about the Joker, which is the pre-wedding issue, and the Joker hasn't received his invitation to the wedding, so he's a bit upset. Very, very good story by Tom King. And then the second one is yet another preview of the Bendis Superman, drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. And to be honest, I didn't care much about it. I like what Bendis writes usually, but I don't think it actually works somehow. But we'll see. It's just a little preview story. Maybe Bendis isn't that good at writing little stories. So, and the third one is a preview of the new Justice League, which is basically the Justice League is going to be there's a big event with different teams of the Justice League, written by John Snyder. So it was okay, a bit messy. I think Snyder is a messy writer anyway, but it was fun. So pick it up. It's extremely cheap. 25 cents in the US. So even in the UK, it's actually quite cheap. Then another big return, and yes, he's back. The hunt for Wolverine. Wolverine is back, and that's actually the first issue is. The body of Wolverine has disappeared, so where is it? And everyone is trying to find Wolverine. Of course, we already know that he's back and that he's been touring the Marvel Universe for whatever reason. I suppose that we'll know soon. This one-shot branches out in 4 separate miniseries, which will cover different aspects of the Marvel Universe with different writing and artist teams. So it could be fun. We'll see how it goes. Then we are getting to the classics again. An original graphic novel by Marvel about Thanos, the Infinity Siblings. So it's, there's this little movie that's out called Infinity Wars Avengers. And so it's basically Thanos is just what people want. So Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, is back and doing a story with Alan Davis, who was one of those classic legendary British artists. So it looks actually quite nice, as you can see. It's the first part of a trilogy. Apparently, it's quite interesting. You've got different. It's just basically a mix match in time, and you don't know too much what's going on at first, and then it gets you try and understand where or when things are happening, because you've got an older heroes with Thanos' brother, with kind of evil, if I could say that. So that's quite fun. If you like Jim Starlin, if you like Alan Davis, I mean, you can't miss that. So it's just original graphic novel by Marvel, The Infinity Siblings. And then last but not least, a collected edition of something that I've always enjoyed. Warren Ellis, with this British writer, has done lots and lots of things. And one of the stories that he had done was a 12-issue series called Global Frequency. And it hadn't been collected as big size hardcover before. Global Frequency is basically Mission Impossible with civilians. That's the best way of describing it. Each story, each issue in it is actually a complete story in itself. So you didn't need to pick all the issues to understand what was going on. Basically, if you could read an issue and the next one would be a completely different story. So it's about those agents who are actually like a rescue operation. They're trying to help people, to save people from terrorists. I mean, basically each story is different. So this is really very, very good. So it's a completed story. So you've got all 12 issues in that. Warren Ellis, lots of different artists. Every issue is drawn by someone different. So. And I think that's about it for today. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any comments, if you have any question, please don't hesitate. I mean, you've got the comments below. And we would love to hear from you, because I'm not sure if you like what I'm doing about comic books. I don't know if you'd like me to do something a bit different. So let us know. We're always very, very happy to listen to your comments and your suggestions. So bye!